Elmina Castle is a historic fortress located in the coastal town of Elmina, Ghana. Constructed in 1482, it holds the distinction of being the oldest European-built structure in sub-Saharan Africa. The castle served as a significant trading post, initially for gold and later for enslaved people. Its strategic location played a crucial role in the transatlantic slave trade for centuries. Recognized for its profound historical importance, Elmina Castle is designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Portuguese constructed the Castelo de São Jorge da Mina in 1482. Its name translates to Street George of the Mine Castle. The castle's primary purpose was to protect the gold trade. It facilitated the lucrative gold trade from the region's rich mines. Elmina Castle marked the initial phase of European colonial presence on the Gold Coast. Its establishment was a pivotal moment in the history of European expansion in Africa. The castle's strategic location overlooked both the Benya Lagoon and the Atlantic Ocean. This prime position was crucial for facilitating trade and ensuring effective defense. In 1482, Portuguese explorers sought to establish a fortified trading post in a new territory. The expedition was led by Diogo de Azambuja, a prominent Portuguese navigator. Their objective was to secure a strategic site for the trading post through negotiation. They engaged in discussions with the local chief, Kwamina Ansa, known as Caramansa in Portuguese records. These negotiations were crucial for gaining permission and access to the desired location. The construction of medieval castles often relied on sophisticated logistical operations. In 1482, prefabricated granite blocks were sourced from Portugal for a castle project. These heavy construction materials were transported by ship across significant distances. A substantial military escort of 700 soldiers accompanied the shipment. This security measure protected the valuable cargo during its journey. Such efficient planning and execution enabled the rapid completion of the castle. The rapid construction of the castle was a strategic imperative for Portugal. Its primary purpose was to secure the valuable gold trade routes. This swift development aimed to counter rival European powers. The efficiency of construction highlighted the region's strategic importance. It underscored Portugal's commitment to dominating the gold trade. In its nascent stages, the castle served a purely commercial purpose. It operated as a feitoria, a term for a trading factory established by European powers. This feitoria was a central hub for economic transactions. Its primary function was to facilitate trade with the local Akan kingdoms. Valuable commodities such as gold and ivory were exchanged. Various other goods were also part of these significant commercial exchanges. Elmina rapidly became the primary operational center for Portuguese activities. This strategic hub was located along the West African coast during the early 16th century. The consolidation of Portuguese power in Elmina was significant. This consolidation facilitated the formation of alliances with indigenous leaders. Within the castle walls, a chapel was established during the early 16th century. This chapel served as a primary institution for the propagation of Christianity. The integration of religious elements was a key component of Portuguese colonial strategy. Religious conversion was often intertwined with political and territorial expansion efforts. Thus, the chapel played a strategic role in consolidating colonial influence and control. By the early 16th century, European demand for labor in the Americas intensified significantly. This growing demand directly impacted coastal African trading posts like Elmina. Elmina, originally a gold trading hub, saw its primary role undergo a drastic transformation. Its focus shifted from gold and other goods to the procurement and trade of enslaved people. This marked Elmina's deep integration into the burgeoning transatlantic slave trade network. This transition represented a dark and pivotal chapter in the history of the region and the fort. In the early 16th century, the transatlantic slave trade began its devastating impact on Africa. Africans were captured during wars or raids, often initiated by European demand for enslaved labor. These individuals were forcibly taken from their homes in the interior regions of the continent. They endured brutal, arduous marches, often over long distances, towards the African coast. This forced journey marked the initial, harrowing stage of their transportation into enslavement. The coastal arrival signified the transition to the next phase of their brutal ordeal. Upon arrival, enslaved individuals faced immediate confinement within the castle's dungeons. These dungeons comprised numerous cells, designed for mass incarceration rather than humane housing. Each cell was notoriously cramped, offering minimal space for the large number of captives. The conditions within these cells were dark, lacking natural light and proper ventilation. Up to 200 individuals were often held in a single cell, creating extreme overcrowding. These horrific conditions were a deliberate part of the system of enslavement designed to dehumanize. In the early 16th century, dungeon conditions were notoriously harsh and inhumane. Inmates faced severe challenges, including widespread disease due to unsanitary environments. Starvation was a common threat, resulting from inadequate and infrequent food provisions. Physical and psychological abuse was also prevalent, contributing to immense suffering. These combined factors created an environment of extreme hardship for prisoners. Consequently, the mortality rate within these dungeons was exceptionally high. The door of no return at Elmina Castle served as a crucial point in the transatlantic slave trade. From this infamous portal, African captives were forcibly loaded onto ships. This door symbolized their final departure from their homeland, Africa. Passing through it often marked the beginning of a life of brutal enslavement. The door of no return remains a powerful symbol of the historical injustices of slavery. In the early 16th century, slave ships embarked on journeys across the Atlantic. These voyages were destined for Brazil, the Caribbean, and other American colonies. At its peak, thousands of enslaved people were transported annually. This forced migration formed a significant part of the transatlantic slave trade. The Portuguese maintained control of Elmina Castle for 155 years, establishing a significant presence. Their long-standing dominion over the strategic coastal fortress began to face challenges by 1637. In that year, the Dutch West India Company launched a concerted effort to seize the castle. The Dutch forces initiated a series of attacks, besieging Elmina Castle with strategic intent. Following multiple assaults, the Dutch West India Company successfully captured the castle from the Portuguese. In 1637, Dutch forces initiated a strategic bombardment against a key castle. The sustained assault aimed to overcome the castle's defenses and secure its surrender. The bombardment proved successful, forcing the castle into submission and changing its ownership. This event marked a significant geopolitical shift in the European presence on the Gold Coast. It altered regional power dynamics, impacting colonial control and trade routes. From 1637 to 1872, Elmina was under Dutch colonial rule. During this period, the Dutch significantly expanded and fortified Elmina. A chapel, originally constructed by the Portuguese, was repurposed by the Dutch. This chapel was converted into a slave auction hall, reflecting the era's brutal realities. The Dutch Colonial Empire engaged extensively in the transatlantic slave trade. Enslaved individuals were forcibly transported from Africa to Dutch-American plantations. This forced labor system was central to the economic prosperity of Dutch colonies. The slave trade generated immense profits, significantly benefiting the Dutch economy. These economic activities were fundamental in fueling and sustaining Dutch colonial enterprises. The Netherlands formally abolished the slave trade in 1814. This decision was a result of evolving societal values and humanitarian reform. Economic shifts, particularly those driven by the Industrial Revolution, also played a role. These combined factors led to the legal end of slave trading practices. In 1872, a pivotal shift occurred in the colonial landscape of the Gold Coast. This change was formalized through the Anglo-Dutch Gold Coast Treaty. Under this treaty, Britain acquired Elmina and surrounding Dutch territories. Elmina Castle subsequently became a key British administrative center. Elmina Castle, a historic structure, underwent significant functional transformations over its history. Following its acquisition by the British, the castle's purpose changed once more. Under British administration, Elmina Castle was repurposed for a new role. It was specifically utilized as a police training school during this period. This marked another distinct phase in the castle's long and varied operational history. Ghana achieved its independence in 1957, marking a pivotal moment in African decolonization. Following independence, historical castles, once symbols of colonial power, came under Ghanaian ownership. These structures, such as the Cape Coast Castle, had been central to the transatlantic slave trade. They became powerful symbols representing the profound exploitation endured during the colonial era. Simultaneously, these castles transformed into emblems of Ghana's national resilience and struggle for freedom. Their new ownership signified a reclaiming of history and national identity for the newly independent nation. Elmina Castle is currently managed by the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. It operates as a preserved museum, showcasing its historical significance. Ongoing renovations ensure the castle's structural integrity is maintained. These efforts also guarantee its accurate historical presentation for visitors. The castle stands as a historical monument, representing a network of forts along the slave coast. These forts were central to the transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in human history. An estimated 15 million Africans were forcibly transported from these locations. The site serves as a poignant reminder of the immense human suffering during this period. Today, it attracts visitors globally, educating them on the legacy of the transatlantic trade.